Welcome to the Washdown podcast. And in this week's episode, our guest is Kimberly Whitman. And Kim is a licensed clinical social worker, a trauma therapist, and she works with veterans and first responders. She's got over 10 years of experience. She's worked in several different programs, and now she has her own private practice. And James and I sat down and talked to her, and we had a great conversation. We were all over the place, so I hope you enjoy the conversation. So like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And here you go. Here's the Washdown podcast with guest Kimberly Whitman.
Oh.
Well, yeah. I haven't figured out which buttons to push quite yet.
But I figured out like day one with him.
Yeah. You got his down. I can tell.
Yeah. He's got my buttons.
I'm
like trying to be all, professional and serious. And like, we're talking about some really heavy stuff and, let's be professional. And,
I'm like the dog on Up.
Yeah. Squirrel.
You're like, no.
Yeah. Let's just see how much work we can make him do. Let's see. Oh, you need to edit 9 minutes because I sounded like a jerk? Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
It's subjective.
Uh-huh.
Everything's subjective.
Exactly.
Of the 2 times that I've had to actually edit this podcast, whose fault has it been?
I don't know.
And he's only had 2. I mean, that's kind of good. 2 is not bad.
2 out of 70 for free labor?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
That's actually not bad at all.
Why are you taking his side?
Sorry, I'm neutral. I'm just looking at the percentage.
Okay, so, well, yeah, that's true. What is that percentage?
He didn't get the nickname Captain Complaint for no reason.
Oh, he's telling on you.
Yeah, you can't use that.
He is telling. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So if you don't mind just addressing him that way through the rest of the podcast, it'd be great.
Captain C.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
CC. Well, closed caption over there.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Oh, well, Kim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's such a delight.
Can already tell this is going to be painful for me.
I'm going to laugh all night. But you guys already got me laughing.
I usually do too.
Hey.
I usually do too.
Yeah. Hey, I just laugh through the pain. Just laugh through the pain.
Laugh through the pain. Through the pain.
Yeah, I'm going to take it all, just stuff it down. Yeah. I'll worry about it later. That's what we do, right?
This podcast is actually for his
avoidance.
own. This is for his own mental health.
Compartmentalization,
That's right.
kinda.
Still avoid it.
Oh, well, so why don't we start by tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you're doing.
What's your favorite color?
Oh, yeah. You got to know my favorite color, which is blue, by the way. I love blue. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been living in Kansas City since actually 2016. And when I got here from the military, and I was a civilian because I was a military wife at the time. And my first job was with STAR, which treated military and first responders for PTSD, addictions. Then it turned into Valor. And from Valor, I am now in my own private practice of my E. So I have just been working with military and first responders for the last 6 years.
So you're married to one?
Yes.
There seems to be a theme here.
Yes.
Because that's the same thing my wife did. Married one, started treating them.
I'm just saying. I mean, and I'm a
Say,
veteran.
They are fucked up. We should help. We should do something.
Well, I'm included then because I'm a veteran. And when you're a veteran, it's like you kind of get it too.
Yep.
And then, so I got both sides of the coin. Being a veteran and understanding a combat veteran at that, being deployed multiple times, you get to see what it's like to have those PTSD symptoms come on, especially with the hypervigilance, with the anxiety, especially post-deployments. And then to watch your spouse go through something like that. Of course, I'm divorced now, but it's not because of that. But, watch him go through some of those things as well. You get get the insight of both sides of what it's like to be a spouse to someone and what it's like to actually be the person serving. So, I don't think that many people get to see it from both sides of the coin, but it's helped me, and, in treatment, me being a provider for our military and first responders, because I get to see both sides of the coin with the family setup and the family dynamics.
We've posed this question and asked different guests, but I think you may be one of the better ones to ask it. We've brought on the topic before of how just, a career in the military, a career being a first responder, it's a lot to take on. What somebody may have, the normal civilian may see once or twice and be very traumatic events for them, especially for first responders over a 30-year career. That's almost a daily basis.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
What are you seeing, or how does your treatment plan change, or just what are trends you've noticed? Because a lot of military get out and go to be first responders. Lots of cops, lots of firefighters.
Do.
What are, I guess if compounding is the good word, what are things you see compounded, or what are trends you see from somebody that goes in the military then to a first responder compared to that of just a first responder or just a military personnel?
Really, when you look at the symptoms that you see with mental illness, it's really the same. But the problem with the ones who have served in the military, theirs is compounded with double. Being on the combat field and being on the everyday streets, they're very similar, but also a little bit different at the same time. So whereas you see that person that served in the military, they may have lost a lot of their battle buddies to IED explosions, watching them get shot, watching them die, trying to revive them. Where you have that first responder, it's not the explosions that they're worried about, it's the unexpected deaths, and it's like, we went out here thinking we're here to rescue, and then someone dies. Well, you take an individual that has both, now they have the IED issue. So even though the alarms for especially firefighters with first responders, you guys sleep is disrupted and you're like, I'm on edge and waiting for the alarms, I got poor sleep and I have all this stuff going on. For that military person, they got the sirens too, but in a different way. They hear those sirens coming off from those scuds that comes in that tells them to take shelter, get ready to fight, and all these things. And then they have the sounds of the explosions that happen for them. So even though it could be similar, it is very much, like you said, more compounded when you have that person that does both. But the symptoms across the board, and this is why you can develop a program that can treat both, the cultures are very similar, especially when you talk about the camaraderie, when you talk about the loss of your comrades. It's one thing to get close to a person, they're your family. It's not like this is my coworker, this is my family member. That's totally different than the average Joe out there on a job. And so because of that, those military and first responders become connected, because when you lose someone from your family that you fought with, that you're with every day, almost sometimes more than your own family, especially when you're deployed in the military, it becomes very difficult to process through that. And what I found with the ones who have both is that I have to not only treat what they're experiencing now and have them understand many times why they ran into being a first responder. It's because they are used to that lifestyle, that adrenaline rush, and it's something that they want to still help and sometimes try to make up for what they didn't do in the military. But it's also seeing that first you got to treat the military stuff, and you got to treat the firefighter or the police or the paramedic stuff. And even though they can be similar, you still have to develop your treatment plans where you are addressing everything across the board. That treatment plan has to be holistically. So that's a good question.
And even to kind of elaborate on it, it is similar as, very often we have police friends, police have fire friends, because we run the same calls. Our jobs are very different. And I remember over the last probably, going on 7 years now, especially the atmosphere, how it's changed in law enforcement. Many times I've heard them say it's like a war zone. And for us, people call us when we need help.
Yeah.
Law enforcement usually is the consequence. And we have the luxury of everybody loves the firemen. Everybody loves firemen. They got good stories about firemen. Law enforcement is not the same. We have the luxury of knowing when we go out, not everybody is looking to harm us. Whereas in the military, and you can elaborate on it too, especially when you're in a combat zone, you do not know who the enemy is and who a friendly is.
At all.
And many law enforcement officers have been experiencing that just on their own streets in their own cities that they live in.
That is a great analogy to make because you're absolutely correct. Especially today, what's happening with police and what they're facing is trust. It's become a big issue. And when it comes a big issue in society, sometimes it gets to every area of your life with trust. Interpersonal relationships and everything else, you start to build up a defense mechanism and walls around yourself to protect yourself. And next thing you know, you don't know when to drop that wall. So then they get into these relationships and the trust still is an issue because every time I turn around, people aren't trusting me. Every time I turn around, I got to defend myself and prove to myself who I am, and you get tired of that. So you're absolutely right.
And that's just something like, bless you for like, I don't even know how to approach that. Like, how do you tell somebody, hey, you're good? Like, no, the fuck I'm not. My friend was just shot. Last, like you said, when your battle buddies get shot, like you are in war, it's expected. But here you are. I hate to say it's a lie or a veil of not truth, but
yes,
you go in with the idea of I'm serving my community. I'm here to help. And sometimes just what's on your shirt's a target.
It's a weight, I think, and you guys know you carry a heavy weight on your shoulders every single day, and your families carries that weight. And I think that's why mental health is so important. It is important that we recognize that, yeah, we have our heroes out there every day that's protecting us. We expect when someone calls 911, somebody's going to answer and somebody's going to be there. But what we don't remember is the exposure that you guys get on a regular basis. And that as much as you're giving, you're taking on all of this weight from everyone else as well. And so then when you go home, it's like, well, what do I do with this? And I think that's the real question out there. And it's been a passion of mine of pushing mental health and seeing how we can get our first responders, our military, to not be afraid to access mental health services, because there's so much stigma around it to say, oh, you got to be tough, you got to be macho, you got to be this. But you guys are real people. And I think sometimes we forget that, you're not machines. They're real people. They have emotions and feelings. And, you see this stuff on a regular basis that would impact anyone.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is, going back to what you said about that whole culture of, oh, you got to be macho and this and that. The general sense is that, okay, so you get PTS or PTSD or whatever, and then, oh, well, I'm broken now. So, and the thing that's not talked about, and we've talked about it a little bit on this podcast, probably I'd like to talk about it more every episode if I could, but the growth aspect of afterwards.
Yes.
Like you can come out the other side.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you can. And I think that's what we forget to celebrate as well. There are a lot of wins. Just because you're diagnosed with PTSD doesn't mean your life is over. It doesn't mean you're broken. You can't do anything. What you have to do is learn how to live with a diagnosis. We know that there's no cure for PTSD, but there is a way that you can live a happy life with healthy coping skills and get through everything and be just as happy as anyone else, understanding how to manage those symptoms that could possibly come on in different social environments when you're triggered and things like that. And I know a lot of people have gone through treatment, and let me tell you, they are living the time of their life. They're having so much fun. They're living life. You wouldn't even know. No one's walking around with a sign on their head saying I have PTSD, and I think that's the fear that people have. If I get that diagnosis, the world is going to know and the world is going to treat me different and I can't do certain things. Well, that is not the truth at all.
It is interesting, and I hate to go back to law enforcement, but I know a lot of the times their fear too is for us in the fire department. It's fairly easy. Like we're like, hey, we're struggling. They're like, cool, let's get you some help. And more in law enforcement, it's, hey, let's get you some help. But you're on the desk, and we're taking away your identity, and you're going to be out of a routine, and here's your new life as you know it until you are quote unquote healed back to a standard that this department sees fit from a legal aspect. That's hard.
It's very hard. And I think there's still some misunderstandings with mental health and some stigmas that still have to be broken, just socially. I would say we're making some strides. I don't know if you guys are seeing that. There's a little bit of improvement, but there's such a long ways to go. Even just if you look across just America, period, and you read different articles and what's happening in different states, you will see some areas they've developed these great programs and they're very supportive of mental health with first responders. You see other areas where this stigma. It's like, we don't have programs. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And so it actually varies from area to area, just depending on what department you're in, what city, and it should be the same across the board.
Yeah. Well, and we've used the analogy of, we're making strides. We're starting, there's peer support and there's this and there's that. Cool. But that's like, should have been 20 years ago.
Yes.
So we're behind.
Yes.
And, James, you've used the analogy of the whole trickle down from the military. We get, combat medicine or whatever that kind of trickles down to us as first responders, like combat gauze, Yeah. Just shove it in there.
Oh,
tourniquets, all of that kind of stuff. And it seems like they've kind of done the same thing with mental health, is where it kind of started to be recognized in the military, and then slowly it starts trickling down to us, to the general population.
And I've wondered, and I Jeremy and I have had these conversations kind of, either on the podcast or off. I'm curious too, like, we've really seen, we go back to 9/11. That's when, with the guest we had on last episode, like, that's when the shift started, and so many different things that we didn't even realize till maybe 20 years down the road. But that's when we really started seeing our military go into these essentially trade roles. Really, we had such a big push for college education that we were like college. We were lacking in our trade roles, and then we were going to the military and being like, hey, trades, military, first responders, go look at this stuff. And then, it was at the time, it was a younger generation where they were finally speaking out like, hey, we're kind of fucked up. This is a lot, and Jeremy and I have had this conversation before too. Like, I'm interested in another 20 or 30 years if we look back and say, man, exposing people to this, from a first responder role for 30 straight years, we probably shouldn't do that. I don't know. I'm interested to see what a career in public service looks like, because the call volume and the amount of exposure has risen very significantly, doubled, tripled in some cities, and our ability for treatment and the way we treat has not caught up to how the exposure has risen.
So I'll pose this question to you. So I was watching another podcast with Andy Stump. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he was talking to somebody else, and they were talking about the multiple deployments that guys were going on, and like how it was impacting mental health. And we could talk about that, in the aspect of, like he said, a 30-year career as a firefighter or as a police officer. So, but their question was, is there like a line where there should be like a hard stop? Like, okay, you've done 2 deployments, you're done, no more. And is it like, well, okay, you've done 10 years, no more, you're done?
I mean, think about it. That means you would do, if you were to put in a 30-year fire career, just for fire department, we work every 3rd day. So 4 months a year. That means you have done a 4-month deployment every year for 30 years.
That's if you don't work overtime.
I have done a 6-month deployment every year.
It's like, let me change that real quick.
Yeah.
But, so at a minimum, if you've said to the military, like, hey, from now on, we're going to do a 4-month deployment, and we're going to do it for 30 years, the military would be like, the fuck you are.
Wouldn't go for it at all.
But
essentially, it's very similar. And I think that's a good question to ask, because some of these guys have been deployed back to back to back, and they don't get an opportunity to actually process anything. I've been deployed multiple times, and when you go over there, it's like you're living in another world, essentially. You're in survival mode, and you imagine living your life in survival mode, especially for when we're at war, OIF, and you got to look over your shoulders 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't know who to trust. And so then you go back to that over and over again. What does that do to a person after a while? It's like their body, their brain, everything is trained to just survive. Don't trust anyone. And so it's hard to come back on this land and say, oh, you're safe now.
Let alone have a functional relationship.
Yes. Yes, it has many impacts. And I think that's something that we're not thinking about, especially when we're deploying soldiers, when we're having these first responders in these long-term careers and doing that exposure. One of the things that for first responders is trauma exposure almost on a daily basis, every single day. But you go home and you're expected to turn that off too every day, which is also very difficult to do.
And we preach the importance of that here on this you
Yeah.
have to be able to.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got to be able to turn it off. But I mean, even like, so whenever me and my wife go to Target, well, I'm going to drive right through the intersection where I just cut somebody out of a car the day before. You know, it's like, okay, we're not really getting away from it.
And then on your way into Target,
Exactly.
you're going to see that same drunk asshole begging for money that you've ran 9 times.
Yeah.
And this is where learning how to process those things becomes so important, and not just stuffing them away and pretending that things didn't happen and pretending that things are normal. And I think that's one of the hardest parts. I've talked to a lot of firefighters, even just with my study that I can't talk a lot about yet because it's not published. But the one thing is that is consistent is the post exposure. It's like after we've gone through all that stuff, everything just hits you. It's like slaps you in the face. And it's like, what do you do with it? And I think one of the biggest things is I know there's debriefings that happens. I know there's different for some, not for all. I'll make that correction. Yeah. Some don't even get a debrief. But even in that, some are afraid, so it becomes, where do I get my outlet? Where do I go to say, hey, I'm not feeling so great. Let's talk about this without feeling embarrassed, and without feeling like I'm less than because the guy next to me didn't feel it the same way.
How many times have we talked about that?
I don't know, 71 episodes.
You may have said that more than you said suck it up, Buttercup.
Wow. And you know what? If you talked about it that much, that is a major issue.
Well, it's
It is.
it's if we let's go down this road. I'm even down to talking about breaking down and restructuring just a normal department issued debrief. Because how many times, like, and I've been in, in a debrief setting we had in my university for like our summer workouts for football. We had our quarterback fell while lifting and broke his back, paralyzed from the waist down. And we had a debrief for those that were there that day and kind of witnessed it. And it was just interesting hearing everybody's different take on it. And it's almost human nature to just judge in some way, whether you judge yourself or you're judging them. It's hard to say like, hey, bro, I was there, like, chill the fuck out. Or like, oh my God, am I making this a bigger deal in my head than because apparently what I'm feeling is not what everybody else is feeling.
Exactly.
And so it's human nature to compare. If you put us in a room with other people, we're going to compare ourselves to other people.
Well, that's why I think the individuality needs to be offered as well. It's one thing to talk about it as a group, and I still think it's good to debrief as a group just to go through, okay, these things happen, because you do have to talk about it. But then you also have to offer that individuality at piece of it so that you have an opportunity to say the things that you're not willing to say in a group. And everybody, there's always somebody in there that is afraid to say something.
Absolutely.
And they're struggling.
Yeah. Well, and, depending on what group you're in, you could get vastly different things because you might get dominated by the old salty guy.
Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, and then everybody else, you got the new kid that's been on for 6 months and they're just going to sit there and clam up because, they don't want to look bad in front of the veteran guys.
Absolutely.
Whereas, individual would be a lot better than maybe they would open up. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about the whole group debrief versus individual.
Like it's needed. It's needed and it's not, especially from like a firefighter, really any first responder or military standpoint. There has to be the group aspect of where we can, as a group, say what went right, what went wrong, what's your perspective, how can we change.
Yeah, well, that's an after action report.
Yeah,
that's different.
Right.
But the problem is
from a debrief.
But the problem is we see the two try to be utilized together,
yeah.
or we treat the after action as a debrief,
And they're definitely
Right.
not the same
Yeah.
thing.
and so but then again, like, let's go down this wormhole. Do we have money? Do we have time to, if we have
Can we afford not to?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how much lost time are we looking at right now with people who have needed to go inpatient?
Mm-hmm.
Lost time at work of people having to take off, even if they're
Mm-hmm.
not an inpatient, because they're having anxiety attacks because even thinking about putting a uniform on makes them freak the fuck out.
Yes.
I mean, so
And look
from
at the
that,
suicides.
exactly.
And that's suicide awareness is like, that is where my passion just really is strong at. I'm so tired of seeing our military and first responders kill themselves because they can't get the help they need, or they're afraid to get the help they need, or they don't know how to get the help they need. And when you look at Firefighters Behavioral Health Alliance that puts out these statistics all the time, they put the statistics out and they say, and these are just estimates because all of them weren't even reported. So these are just the ones that are reported. If you look from 2009 even up to 2019, I don't know if he has 220 out yet or not, but what you'll see is it's a big giant number, and then every year it goes down a little bit, and then the next year goes up, then the next year goes down, then the next year goes up, but there's no real decrease in the suicide rates. It's pretty much staying the same. And it's like, oh, we'll see it and then we'll do something and it may drop just a tad. And then the next year it's right back where the same thing is. So somewhere along the lines we're missing a mark.
I wonder if that goes back to my approach of earlier of, while our treatments or our recognition of things may be improving, it's just not keeping up with what we're doing. So just for shits and giggles, the other day there was a fire in the area recently that the fire department rescued 15 people from. 9 of them were kids. And it made national news that no fatalities. The fire department did a kick-ass job on it. I was like, okay. So I was on Facebook scrolling through like all the different news the local news networks that were sharing the post, and maybe 100 to 1, the ratio, I shit you not, the ratio was like, oh my God, prayers for the families. Oh, that's so sad. Oh, the kids, blah, blah, kids, families, There's no doubt about it. It is sad for the kids and the families. Maybe like literally probably once every 100 comments, some just didn't have any at all. It was like, oh, those poor first responders.
Yes. Yes.
That kid, yes, had a very traumatic injury. He was in the hospital for a night. That sucks. Some of them were critical. Those guys just had to pull 15 of them off a balcony.
Exactly. And that's the piece we're missing.
And then some of those same companies that did that, the shift later are running multiple people shot, wrecks, other fires.
Well, not only that, but right after they get done with that call, they go back to the station, they put new hose on the rig, and they're at it again. It's not, hey, we ran this call and that's it, we're going home. We're going back to work.
Yeah.
And the question becomes, though, what do we do? What do we do for intervention wise that would help us make a smoother transition of not just debriefing, but really refocusing and getting you guys back out there in a healthy way instead of telling you, put that out your head and keep pushing.
And, maybe the question is, do we get them back out there? Not, like, for example, there was a middle school in the area yesterday that had a kid stabbed in the bathroom, and that kid died. That school let the kids out. 99% of the kids in that school didn't even see or know what happened.
Wow.
But the crew that ran that kid to the hospital was probably running another call an hour later. If you look at it like that, it's almost when you put things in black and white, you're like, oh, that doesn't seem too smart.
And it's the same crew,
Yeah.
and it's the same people, and I don't think we think about that. And I think that's the biggest piece that's missing.
Yeah.
And that's when you end up with a lot of trauma problems that become unresolved, and then you have unresolved emotional problems because emotionally you have to detach yourself so that you can go to the next call. So
It's your job. The city pays you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just trauma stacking is all it is, you just stack them one on top of the other and just keep building and building and building. So, yeah, as far as what do we do, though, I mean, I don't know, because fire departments, police departments all across the country, we are all ridiculously, hilariously short-staffed.
I know.
And it's not going to get any better anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I would say within the next 2 years, conservatively, until we would maybe be back up to full staffing. Maybe.
Wow.
But
what about the volunteer firefighters? Do most of the departments still offer volunteer firefighters?
So it depends. The volunteer firefighter thing is more for rural areas. So if you're in a major metropolitan area like we are, you're paid.
You know,
and
it's crazy though.
Professional fire department.
70% of the United States firefighters are volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
I read an interesting article that was published last night. It was actually pretty scary. I even shared it on my Facebook. Forbes, so not just like Jeremy's Daily Mail, Forbes did a study. They talked to 3,000 doctors, a few thousand nurses, techs, and stuff like that. They are predicting that 70% of the healthcare field will leave, like healthcare personnel will leave the field by 2025. 70%.
Especially after COVID. And
Yeah.
you think about and
that's just the healthcare field.
That I was going to say.
That's just hospitals.
Yes, that's not talking about the first responders.
Yeah.
Because first responders have been hit by COVID pretty tough as well. You think about, well, even when COVID was at its worst, you guys still had to go out there when they called 911 and expose yourself even to COVID. That adds another element.
Mm-hmm.
What was interesting when it came into suicide rates from national level of suicide rates, they actually added not just suicide, but deaths rates. They added COVID to the list and actually knocked down suicide by 1, only because they added COVID to the list, how many people died of COVID. So then you take that number and you say, that many people have died of COVID that made it in the top 10 of deaths, right? So then you say, oh my goodness, how many first responders had to go to those calls of those deaths of COVID? How many doctors? How many nurses? So it impacts across the board.
Oh, and just especially when it was at its worst, we didn't know. We were just healthcare. Like the helping field as a whole was just we were trying to just stay above water in response to it. And we've joked a couple times before, our department's policy, we were limiting who was going in the house. And so we were just sending one personnel in the house on pretty much every call. And, the crew would stay outside and bring stuff in if we need it. Mm-hmm. Being the medic, it really is shitty feeling like a canary.
Yeah, because you had to go in there every single time.
And all your crew's like, good luck.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
love you, buddy.
Okay. And there were departments around the area, including ours, that had what we considered line of duty deaths from it.
Wow.
There were multiple departments where they contracted it on duty.
Yeah.
And just in my own experience, like I was unfortunate enough to run one of our line of duty deaths at work from it. And, it was very new and I had to quarantine right after. And we didn't know. We were just like, hey, 2 weeks, you got to go away. You don't be seen or heard.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, cool. Like, you got to go home. I'm like, well, my grandpa's at home. I'm like, okay, well, we'll put you somewhere else. And then it was like 2 weeks of just stewing over the call, wondering if I did right. Mm-hmm. Anytime I tried to sneak out, it felt like prison.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even have a microwave.
Oh, my.
Like, I got stuck in a hotel room, and I understand the purpose, and I'd do it 1,000 times again instead of risking exposing my grandpa. But afterwards, it was just like, we maybe need to reevaluate how we do this. This is not fun.
And speaking of the isolation, like a prison, you add that to mental health. You add that component and you take someone who's already suffering from depression, who's already suffering from anxiety, and you tell them, oh, you know what? You got to go quarantine all by yourself. Yeah. You can't talk to people and see people.
People will die if you talk to them.
Yeah.
That's how we started.
On top of, your brain is already telling you, you're the only one going through this.
Exactly.
You're the only one going through this.
And then the quarantine you talk about an escalation of mental health problems. Oh my goodness, COVID-19 escalated it big time across the board.
But it's interesting, like we can look back now 2 years removed and be like, not the best idea, fam. But like at the time, again, when you're just trying to tread water, a third of your department is in quarantine. Like it's we're dealing in numbers at that point. Sorry, James, your little pity patty single problems over here. Like we'll get to you, but we're trying to make sure people come to work and are able to run the city functionally. I get it from a paper business standpoint. Mental health's like down here under clean toilets. But unfortunately, like if we allow that to go on too long,
it can't be down there.
it's going to quickly make itself to the top, and we're all going to be like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, that brings us back to the question of where's the line? When do we got to say, okay, enough's enough? We need to pivot and we need to transition.
Pivot.
But what do you transition
You've never seen
to?
Friends? You've never seen Friends?
I love Friends.
Thank you. Pivot.
Love it.
I've seen Friends, but apparently not that episode. Smelly cat. Oh,
smelly cat.
How
Oh
about
my
you?
God.
You and I can
That's
just
my favorite.
You and I can just continue this conversation.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Where are you going to go though? When you draw the line and you say, I've had enough and I've seen this happen, where do those guys go?
How do you draw a line for something subjective too?
Very true.
Because we've talked about this, like the stigma, like at least in the fire service or around our department, we've seen it's got so much better. But oh damn, that guy broke his leg. Like he's hurt. His leg's broke. Look at it. We see that fucked up leg. We all see it. Here's pictures of it on Facebook. We don't see what's wrong with the brain.
The invisible wounds.
How do you put a hard line? Because how many times have we talked about what may affect you one way will affect me another way? I could maybe keep going longer than Jeremy could, vice versa. Well, what do we put that hard line?
I think that's what comes in when you get the treatment, though, and that's the hard part. First, you have to seek the treatment out. Once you get under a clinician and that clinician looks and says, okay, I clearly see this is where you're struggling. This is what you're suffering with. This is what we're working on. Throughout that treatment process, you have a decision to make. That clinician typically already knows that either whether you're burnt out, you're done, you need to do something different. But ultimately, that individual needs to make that decision. And I think having the backup of a clinician to say, I confirm that this is what this person has gone through and that he really or she really cannot be exposed to any more trauma, then that's where that line is drawn. I think one of the problems is that either we can't afford treatment or we're afraid to go to treatment, or we don't know what our lives are going to look like after. This is my life. This is all I know. If I stop this, then what do I do next?
Something, and I'd even add to that, and this is where I'd like your expertise, Jeremy, is
I have expertise.
Yes.
You're the one that holds rank in the room, so.
Oh, well.
He does.
You are correct, and I'd like to add in there recognition of treatment. And that's where I think supervisors and leaders in these departments and even in the military come in. Like, you, as the umpteen-year guy that is now a supervisor and a captain on your fire department, you have to be able, more than some of those 1 year, 5 year guys, to recognize there's a problem here. Especially like when guys come into a culture that's just like, we got to go, we're moving, here's calls, put your feelings in a fucking box, we'll talk about them later, let's go. You've got to be the one to be like, hey, Padawan, let's have a seat. Let's talk for a second. And
that comes back to being able to change the culture, right? So, and I think in the position that I'm in now, I can affect that at the station that I'm at with my crew. And hopefully that can trickle out.
Yeah, you set that culture with 6 of them. Yeah. That's 6 more crews in the future that they...
Yeah. And that's part of that is getting to know the people that I'm responsible for, right? So, James, you're my firefighter, and, we've been running calls all day, and you're getting grouchy and all that stuff. Yeah, I know that that's not you because we have a relationship. And like we were talking about the other day, there is that line of supervisor, employee, for lack of a better word, where how much of a relationship do you have? And I think it's very gray in the fire service because, we live together for 24 hours a day, every third day, sometimes more often. So those lines get blurred more than other professions, especially probably more than the police department where their rank structure is how it is. But you have to get to know the people that you are responsible for if you're supervising them. And you have to be able to set them down and go, hey, look, this is what it is. And you got to make it clear that you care.
Yes.
It's not punitive. It's not anything like that. It's, look, these are the things I'm seeing. This is not your normal behavior. You need to take a knee. We need to talk about something. And it could be a simple.
Get a Snickers.
Yeah. Take a break. Get a Snickers. You're hungry. Your blood sugar's low. It's going to be okay. All right. You turn into Betty White when you're
Okay.
So, but that's at the very, I think at the very beginning. You're talking about like preventative stuff. And I think it's in the chain of the preventative actions. And I think that's where we need to focus more or focus some energy on is that preventative work to keep people from getting to the points where they're coming to you because they just tried to shoot themselves in the face.
Yes.
If we can encourage people to say, hey, maybe go talk to somebody, go talk to a professional before you get to that point, because you know how much we hate the 2 a.m. toe pain. Guess what? That's what we do to them all the time because we wait until it's the 2 a.m. toe pain. How long have you been depressed or been fucked up in the head?
Fuck that analogy. Fuck everything about that analogy. I am done.
He's like,
It is so accurate. I am done.
Yes.
Hit the nail on the head.
I thought about that the other night, and I told Rachel about that.
Did you?
Yeah. And she passed it along, and everybody had that same reaction.
It's
But
good.
it's so true. That is the thing that annoys us the most is I'm short of breath. How long you been short of breath? 2 weeks. Oh.
Why are we here?
Why
Yeah.
are we?
Exactly. So then we go to their office because, we're fucked up. And it's like, so how long have you been feeling this way?
Like 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Genius.
you need to write it down and put it in a freaking training manual.
Oh, yeah.
I
Easy.
guarantee-
Pump the brakes on that.
I guarantee you would get if you did this in a firefighter conference of 1,000 firefighters, 998 of them would walk out. And the other two would just be so dumbfounded. They're like, son of a bitch. And they wouldn't be walk out because they don't like it. They walk out because they don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
But, I mean, yeah.
I'm just going to sit here and stew over that.
You have made him a loss for words? What?
It's rare. But, yeah. It
Fuck.
happened.
I'm shocked.
So, but yeah, I mean, but that's the thing is we have to focus on that
Yes.
more because like we've talked about, so for every step that you take down that path of, I don't know, we need to come up with a name for the path, the I'm fucked up path or something.
I like that name. I like that name.
So every step that you take down that path, it's 10 steps uphill to get back to normal.
It absolutely
right?
is. Yes. And if you don't recognize that you're taking those steps down, and I think that's what happens,
Yeah.
there's no awareness,
Mhm.
and it's not no awareness until that hole is so deep that you don't know how to
Yeah.
get out. And the reason I mentioned training is because I know you guys go through training before you even become a firefighter. There's a training that you go through, but are you, part of that training is there mental health awareness in there?
There's
An hour.
yeah, I think an
hour in a
the-
6-month academy.
Yeah.
Just an
So-
hour out of 6 months. Did you just say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. See what I said? It's getting better. There wasn't even that whenever I came through.
Oh, wow.
It was the talk that we got whenever I was in the academy was, hey, you take your feelings, you put them in a box, you put them under your bed. You can have them back when you get home from work.
And even
And we
in our
definitely need to stop teaching that.
Yeah.
in our
That's
line of
just
work
setting
too,
people up.
like we're looking at it as like over a career, over a year, over a 5-year span. if you even look at it on a daily basis, it's hard to recognize it sometimes. Just,
Mm-hmm.
when you're call to call, whether you're on an ambulance, a fire truck, or, a police car, it's hard just in a day. A 12-hour shift, 24-hour shift, then you're like, oh, fuck, what just happened?
Yeah.
And how easy is that when you're doing that every day, every other day, every third day, in 5 years to look back and be like, oh, fuck, what just happened?
What have I been doing?
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you who will tell you are your family members and your closest friends, because I guarantee they see it. And I guarantee they don't like the changes. I think it disrupts families a lot, because you guys are already away from your families for so long anyway, just for the shift work that you have to do. But then when you are traumatized and you don't have help for that and you're not processing that, you bring that home.
Yeah, but you know what the first thing we'll say is, well, they're just not ready to be a firewife.
Uh-huh.
They don't understand. They don't get it.
Yep. You're right.
You look at your kids and you're not grateful for what your dad or mom is doing. You don't understand. It's not my fault. You all need to learn.
You're right. But
self-awareness is not
Yes.
really big in this culture.
Because, Jeremy, you've said how many times, what's the last thing to go?
The job.
The job.
yeah.
The job will be the last thing to suffer. The family will be the first thing.
Yes, absolutely. And best believe they see it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's one area that we overlook as well, are the family members of our military and first responders. Even though we push and push and push, and you guys need a lot of help, so do those family members, because they also, even if they don't know the traumas, and they always talk about, I don't want to traumatize my wife or my husband with secondary trauma, so I'm not going to tell them what happened. I don't want them to know that I had a hard day.
They're going to fill in. It's a game of Mad Libs. They're going to fill in the blanks.
Yep,
Especially,
they will.
especially
With whatever
now
their
in such
imagination can make
in
of.
such an
Exactly.
instant connected world. First thing on the news: firefighter injured in house fire. That's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
You call your husband, call your wife. They can't answer, probably because they're busy.
Yep.
And then you start filling in the blanks.
Yes.
And we don't think about that because we're like, hey, we're fucking fine. We would have called you when we got done. They don't know that.
So they're experiencing trauma also, but theirs is secondary, and it's hard for them too. And I think across the board, mental health services needs to be taking care of both the service member as well as the families.
Yeah. Well, and I would go so far as to say it's not secondary. I would say there's primary trauma happening just from, you coming home and being a dickhead.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely.
Oh, the wife knows don't talk to him for the first hour after he gets home, or the kids know, dad needs to take a nap, so we got to be real quiet. And, yeah.
You're absolutely right. They're getting a double whammy. They're getting it both. And then the alcoholism can set in and all these other things just to, I don't want to argue, so I'm going to drink. I don't,
Or anything. I don't
Yes.
want to argue, so I'm going to gamble. I'm going to watch
Yep.
porn. I'm going to
Yep.
smoke. You name it. Just
Absolutely.
any negative. And even how many times have we talked about what can start as a positive quickly turns into a negative?
Oh, yeah.
And I have flirted with it sometimes. I'm not, especially with my grandpa. When I come home and things are just a fucking mess, I get things stable and I'm out on the fucking bike just to get a break.
Yeah. Or you've got you're into bow hunting or fishing or whatever, and guess what? You're spending both days that you're off work. You're out at the lake on the boat by
Yep.
yourself.
By yourself with all your thoughts racing.
Yeah.
So talk to me. You're coming out on your own. You've got your own business now.
Yes.
What's your thought process through that? I say you're starting your own business because you think you can do something different, something better. What is that?
Well, one, I definitely know that I can do something different and something better, because working with military and first responders and being a veteran myself, over the past 6 years, I have learned so much more than I even thought I knew about the culture. And I think one thing that is needed is competent therapists in the field. And the one thing that I hear all the time is that they can't find a competent therapist because they don't understand the culture. They don't understand what we're going through. They don't know what's happening. When it comes to grief and loss, unfortunately, I have become a natural and a subject matter expert of it because of my own personal life and things that I've overcome with grief and loss. But I've had to go through and pull myself up out of that so I can teach someone else how to do it. And when you think about the jobs that happen, especially even even if you're diagnosed with PTSD or depression, many times grief and loss is the first thing that you hit. We lost people. We lost our friends. We lost our family members. We lost our loved ones. And it starts there. The guilt and shame starts building up from there. And so teaching an individual how to grieve, because the first thing we do is we turn those emotions off. We don't want to grieve. We just want to keep going, is teaching you how to grieve, and then tackling that guilt, tackling that shame from a perspective of it's okay for you to not be okay. And I think we don't say that enough. We want to be okay all the time. Nobody's happy all the time. Nobody's happy-go-lucky. We have bad days, and it's okay to have a bad day. And someone just hearing that in itself, it's just like, really? I can have a bad day? Yes, you can.
Nope. No, you can't. Nope. If you are not smiling in sunshine, then you're fucking out.
Get to have a bad day, man. And I said, everybody has them. You don't get to live in bad days. You don't get a bad week. You don't get a bad month, but you do get a bad day. But the next day, you better do something about it. And I think someone needs someone real that's not so analytical that they're like looking through their manual, right, and trying to figure out.
Page 56, dealing with depression.
Yeah. And that can actually be honest, open, and real and transparent with you and say, listen, you don't have to sugarcoat anything here. And I'm not going to cry because you tell me some of the worst things that's happened to you, because I heard that too. They're traumatizing the therapist sometimes. And some of them will be like, can I say this? You can say whatever you want. This is real life. And if you don't have someone that you can go to and be real with your language, and without a filter, that's a problem. And I think that's a problem with our military and first responders finding good treatment and good health. So my LLC, that's my company. I'm starting out, and I offer telehealth. I offer in-person in North Kansas City. And I will tell you, I have clients right now who are very happy because they're like, wow, I actually get to be myself and come into treatment and actually talk to somebody that understands. I can talk to them about the problems I'm having, and they're not looking at me sideways or a deer in the headlights. I've even had some clients tell me and say, therapists aren't bad. It's just that there are certain therapists for certain groups of people. And if you go to the wrong therapist and their specialty is not what you need, it will seem like you have a bad therapist. Well, every therapist can give you something. So it's not that they're a bad therapist. They're not the therapist for you for what you're going through. So it's important to find that culturally competent therapist to address your specific needs.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time we said culturally competent therapist on this show, I'd have enough money to not have to do this show.
Wow. Well, that's an issue then, right? Because you got to keep saying it. And we wouldn't have to keep saying it if there were enough out there.
I was just thinking, I was just thinking when she was talking to you, about my manual. Mm-hmm. It's probably 4 pages. Is the Jeep in the shop? Yes. See page 2. Is it nice enough to ride the motorcycle? No. See page 3. Is there mac and cheese?
Is there mac and cheese?
See page 4. Page 4 is go pick up an overtime shift. It's just those are my 4 steps to dealing with problems. It's pretty simple. If any one of those is a yes, you just stop and you don't have to go to the next.
Now, see, you need to create the manual for mental health the same way. 4 steps.
Mac and cheese?
You can add mac and cheese in there.
That's my.
Are you sleeping? Yes or no? You having nightmares when you're sleeping? I mean, that's important. Are you craving for alcohol and drinking just to drink? It's no longer a leisure thing. It's become something else, or any type of addiction that you can have. Having these warning signs and having a quick 4-point check on ourselves every day, it's not a bad idea. Just like a vehicle that you got to have tune-ups, we have to have mental tune-ups as well and make sure we're functioning okay.
If somebody says one more fucking accurate analogy in the show, I swear to God, I'm walking out. I am walking out.
Sorry.
I'm done with the realism of this.
See, but we were ready for you. Just a little bit.
See, you thought you were going to get me all day today, and nope.
See, no, we've had these episodes where all of a sudden it's like, hey, whoa, when the fuck did we start talking about me? Happens all the time. That's what I love on Facebook, seeing those those little therapist memes is where it's like, therapist, what do we say to people when we're upset? And it's like, go fuck yourself. And the therapist is like, no. And it's always like firefighters or cops or nurses sharing them. So I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we say.
Exactly what we say.
But goes back to your point. Like, yeah, there's even just finding a therapist that we can like talk to like another firefighter, or like we're sitting at a kitchen table at a firehouse, or we're in a break room at a police station. Like, hey, bro, I ain't interested in all your big fancy ass terms. I'm not here to diagnose. I'm here to have a chit chat. And like and it can be a huge turnoff. I've been there. I'm like, hey, you are smarter than me, and I don't like it. Goodbye. Like,
well, but that also goes back to the point of, you know, what she said is you can get something from every therapist, but they may not be the therapist for you. And the important,
I got that I don't want to go back.
Yeah, the important part is that you find somebody else.
Yes.
You have to. That's the important part of, because not every treatment is going to work for everybody.
Absolutely.
You know, EMDR might work great for you, but I need talk therapy, or, you know, you might need music therapy and I might need art therapy. You have to find what works for you. Once you stop trying, that's when the real problems start.
Absolutely. It may take you a couple times before you hit the right one.
And getting that message out. Because so many people are like, hey, I tried it. It was weird. I didn't like it.
Well, and you know as well as I do, man. It's like Joe is going to say, well, yeah, I tried therapy and it didn't work because I went and saw this therapist. And then Bobby and Billy and everybody else is going to be like, well, if therapy didn't work for Joe, how's it going to work for me? Or this therapist is bad because they couldn't fix Joe. Well, maybe not, but the fact is Joe didn't put in the work. It's not the therapist's fault, because therapists are not going to fix you. You have to do the work to fix yourself.
You have to do the work, and you have to understand that there's no such thing as curing a person. You know, healing takes place, but you have all the tools inside of you to heal yourself. Everything you need. Our bodies are built that way. We don't know how to access them. And really what a therapist does is guide you to understand those tools and how to use those tools so that you can heal yourself. Because we don't do any magic. There's no fairy dust that we sprinkle. It's really understanding yourself again.
So here's the analogy. Here's the analogy that I like to think of. Your coach.
Yeah.
So think of it as an athlete. You know, you went out to play basketball or football or baseball or whatever it was. You didn't just go out and, you know, join a team and you guys just went out and played. No, you had a coach who showed you how to run plays, who showed you how to play defense, who showed you how to catch the ball, throw the ball.
Taught you how to adapt.
Yes. But what happens when you don't show up for practice?
Then you suck come game time. Just once a week, Kim. Just come right on back. It's fine.
Practice? Playoffs? You talking about practice? You talking about practice?
I gotta do homework. What? Yes, you do.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the Washdown podcast. If you're struggling, reach out. All the bullshit we say at the end, I'm done with this.
You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love just being real and just really having an honest, open conversation about these things. I think it's needed, and I'm so glad you're doing a podcast like this, because somebody out there might be listening that says, man, maybe I should see another therapist because I didn't like the first one, or maybe I do need to do a mental health check on myself because I haven't been sleeping well, you know. And just those key things of hearing somebody else say it out loud might trigger them to do something about it.
The roller coaster that this podcast has been, you can easily turn back to mental health. There is no one treatment that you leave and you're like, I'm good. I fixed it. And it's been that way since episode 1.
Wow.
Jeremy started this with the idea to help. We didn't set a goal number. We didn't set a viewer number. And there's been times with our episodes that get a lot of views and don't get a lot of views. And we're like, in the back of our mind, we wish this would take off, that we wish that we'd get Joe Rogan type viewers. But, it wasn't, I don't know, Jeremy, maybe a month ago. So episodes 60, 70 or something like that.
Yeah.
that there was a real bad incident that some of our local law enforcement officers went through, and they're like, "Hey, can we talk? We know you do the podcast. We need to talk about something."
Wow, that's awesome.
Like, then it clicked. Like,
Yeah.
if we had to do 900 episodes,
Yes.
somebody saw it and somebody talked.
Yeah. And that was the goal from the beginning, was if we can help one,
That's
just
awesome.
one person.
And make fun of Jeremy while we're doing it. Then it's perfect.
Exactly.
You got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the easy target. So to pick those low-hanging fruit. Yeah. So, but yeah, just help one person, keep them from going down the road that we all collectively have been down. Some of us further than others. But yeah, just one. That's it.
You're bringing awareness, and you're highlighting important, critical problems that saves lives. And so I thank you. You know, this is much needed, and I wish more people out there would do it. And it helps that you're active firefighter doing it, because it's one thing for someone on the outside to do something like this. It's different when it comes from the source. Your voice is actually being heard. Even in research, we're hurting on that, which is why I did my research the way I did with narratives, because your voices are missing. A survey can only tell you so much.
Yeah, they're just numbers. They're just numbers.
Yes. But when you go deep in and you actually have to talk about it, that's where you get, and it's not someone's interpretation, it's your words, where we can see this is their word saying that this is a problem. Pay attention. This is how we need to tackle it. I think it's important.
I know why she's just cutting so goddamn deep today.
Why is that?
It's because my ex-wife was an LCSW, and I think they all talk.
Well,
I guarantee you, she sent her an email. She's like, "Hey, this asshole never listened to me. Why don't you go ahead and hit these little pointers tonight real quick?" That's exactly what fucking happened. You thought you fooled me.
Hey.
I see through this.
She's listening. Oh my goodness. You're too funny.
Trying to pull a smooth one past me.
Hey, bro.
She probably emailed you to bring her on too, didn't she?
Found us out.
She found this out.
It was. This episode has been built for a month just to get to this point for you.
I can't wait to see the title of it when it goes up on
Oh goodness.
James gets his comeuppance.
Exactly.
The past will find you.
Oh my goodness. You're too funny.
So before we start fucking talking about me again,
Uh-huh.
if someone who, the people that are watching this, they're like, "Hey, this one sounds good. I might talk to her."
Mm-hmm.
How, what's the best way to go about getting services from you? How would you like to market your
Well, I
your
have
business?
several options. So you can call me, my office directly. It's 816-866-7984. And I know Jeremy's going to post up my information. But I also have a website. If you go to www.my-e.space, you'll see there is a link that says get in touch, and I actually have a calendar where you can request an appointment if you don't even want to talk to anybody and you're just like, I just want to make an appointment just to talk to her very quickly. You can schedule a 15-minute free consultation. Usually I go 30 minutes, and we'll talk about it and see if I am the right fit for you, because I do believe you have to have the right therapist. So that consultation helps you figure out, okay, she don't know what the hell she talking about, or I'm vibing with her. Let's schedule an appointment. I take insurances. I also take private pay. Some people don't want to use their insurance because for various reasons, but I also take private pay if somebody does that. And I do sliding scales too. My idea of starting My E is to help everybody. I'm not here trying to say, oh my, I'm going to break the bank to get you to get mental health. And I think that's another barrier that we all face, is the cost of it. If I'm willing to work with you, I want to see you live, and I want to see you get better. So don't be afraid to call me because of money issues, but also don't be afraid to call because of confidentiality. Everything's confidential unless you're going to tell me you're going to kill yourself or kill somebody else. What we talk about is between us. And I think that's important, especially to first responders. In military, you want to know that your stuff is, everybody's all in your business, just almost like your government property at one point. You join these places. So you're like, can I keep this one thing confidential, please? That's something you won't have to worry about with me.
No Big Brother.
Sure.
I have
We'll
no
go there.
hidden cameras.
I guarantee you if I call her, you'd be looped in on speakerphone.
Oh my
Guarantee
gosh.
it.
I won't confirm nor deny that.
I hate you so much.
Like, tell him this now, Kim.
You're right. Oh, he's lying.
That's why I know
That's
she'll
not
be
real.
like, I guarantee she'll be like, well, do you feel like you're just falling in peanut butter? And I'll be like, you motherfucker, I knew it.
Oh my goodness.
Do you have a burning sensation on your neck?
Oh, yeah. You
What?
guys.
Yeah, we'll tell you that story after we get.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of funny now.
Yeah. It's hilarious. It's not just a little funny. It's hilarious.
You guys have too much fun. Is there such thing as too much fun?
I'll put it this way. I ended up covered in peanut butter and in the ER in the same night.
Oh.
And no, it wasn't a bet.
No, it wasn't a bet. Yeah, I want to know that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh shit! I'm done. I'm done. This has to be over, and I'm having and it's such a great guess. I just can't do it anymore. I didn't ask for any of this shit.
You guys are so amazing.
Well, Kim, thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Any final thoughts? Ha! I beat you to it. It's great.
Let me tell you, I always have final thoughts. If you're out there suffering and you're hurting, I don't care who you call. You pick up the phone and you call somebody and you ask for help. It's never too late. Always remember that.
James, final thoughts?
Make this end. Just make it end. Let me go.
Make it in.
All right. Well, like Kim said, pick up the phone and call somebody. If you are struggling, there are resources out there. If you know somebody that's struggling, reach out to them, let them know you care, get them in touch with some resources. So, Kim, thank you so much for stopping by. It's been fantastic.
No, it hasn't.
Thanks.
James,
You loved it.
as always, it's been a pleasure.
James, it's been so much fun.
Thanks, everybody, for stopping by, and we will see you next time.